Hi there everybody. So I thought I would do a video for you. Obviously we've seen a lot in the media in the last couple of days about this new breathing space and the debt relief scheme. Now I've seen a lot of articles about this. I've seen a lot of agents doing videos about this, and sometimes the information coming across isn't as accurate as it could be, and it also, I've seen in a few of the articles, is very much sensationalizing the breathing space and what it actually means for landlords. So I thought what I'd do this morning is just go through the actual scheme itself and talk about the basics of what this means to landlords. I'm not going to go into jargon. I'm not going to be detailing the actual legislation itself. I'm just going to be picking out the key points that are going to be important to you as landlords. So the first thing to understand is there are two types of breathing space: the standard breathing space and the mental health crisis breathing space. So we'll talk about the standard breathing space first, because I think that's going to be the most common. Now that means that if a tenant, and we're only going to be talking about tenants, have got rent arrears that have already been taken to court, so there needs to be some kind of order in place, a court order. Only when that is happening can a tenant go to a debt advisor and look at the option of a breathing space from this new debt relief scheme. Now, the debt advisor themselves is going to have a criteria of eligibility, and that tenant has got to tick that box. Now, these advisors are qualified FCA registered, so they have to get it right. They can't just be giving out these breathing spaces like sweets, because they are going to be audited on what they're doing. So with regards to the breathing space, what it means is the tenant is going to get up to 60 days to basically get their ducks in order. That's what it's about. It's not about them having 60 days to not pay their rent. It's not about them having 60 days to just do nothing. The actual criteria that the debt advisors will be looking for, and the agreement that tenants will be going into with their debt advisor, is that they continue to pay any rent that is due. That is going to be part of their obligations, and we'll go into what happens if they don't fulfill this in a moment. So they're going to have to keep paying their rent in full. And the 60 days is giving the tenant and the debt advisor time to work together to find a solution to move forward to clear the debt. Now, if the debt advisor feels that a breathing space isn't going to make a blind bit of difference to the tenant's situation, then they will not issue one. And the tenant will have to look at the ordinary debt solutions like debt relief order, IVA, payment plans, that sort of thing. But if there's something that the tenant can do within that maximum of 60 days, so for example, sell items or release savings, because some people obviously have time delays on those, then that's when a breathing space will be issued to give tenants time to get together all the money they need to start paying off their debt. Now, if a tenant doesn't pay the rent moving forward, this will basically null the breathing space. And you as the landlord or your letting agent can go to the debt advisor who is running your tenant's case and advise that this hasn't happened. And you can then get the breathing space annulled. You can also apply to court to have it annulled as well, but that's something sort of a bit further down the line. So in that respect, these breathing spaces aren't going to affect every single tenant, because a breathing space may not be the best option for that tenant. There may be other options available which are more fitting, and that is going to be the debt advisor's job. Now, if the tenant doesn't pay and doesn't stick to any of the agreements, then obviously you can absolutely continue as you normally would, serving your Section 8, going for an MCOL, money claim online, or any other action that you already had in place with regards to collecting the debt. Now, when we look at the mental health crisis, what that has to mean is the tenant can't just claim that they're having mental health problems. They have to have gone to an approved mental health practitioner. Then they have to be receiving treatment for their mental health. Now, that is in itself quite a challenge. Mental health assessments are not easy to get, and mental health diagnosis are not easy to get. So again, I think mental health crisis breathing spaces are going to be few and far between, and they are really only going to be given to tenants who are genuinely in a mental health crisis, needing treatment, whether that be counselling, whether that be medication, or whether that be something more serious. So again, if you're hearing these words being bandied about, standard breathing space, mental health breathing space, you've got to consider everything that's going to be needed for that one tenant to tick the boxes in regards to what the breathing space will mean for them. Now, the other situation we've got is we're hearing that it's a maximum of 60 days for the standard breathing space. That word maximum is really important because the breathing space actually comes with 2 review periods, one at 25 days and one at 35 days. So that means the debt advisor will have to get back in touch with the tenant at those 2 review points and decide whether the breathing space is still working for them. So if the breathing space isn't working, they're not being able to release savings, or they haven't sold what they were supposed to sell, the debt advisor herself or himself can retract the breathing space and say, do you know what, it's not going to matter if we do it for another 30 days, you're still not going to get the outcome we're looking for. So the debt advisors do have review periods in that 60 days. The other thing to understand is that a tenant can only get 1 breathing space per year. So if they get a breathing space now and the 60 days expires and they still are in trouble, they're still not paying their rent, they've still got arrears, they can't get another breathing space for another 12 months. It's 1 every year. So when we're actually looking at the bare bones and the facts of these breathing spaces and the debt relief scheme, it actually doesn't look as scary as it actually did, first of all, when I certainly was reading some of the articles that were going out in the media. So just to recap, the breathing spaces, standard breathing space, the tenant has got to meet the criteria, and those debt advisors issuing the breathing spaces are FCA registered and will be audited in regards to how they're issuing these breathing spaces. The breathing space can only be issued to a debt that already has some kind of court action attached to it. So that could be, for example, collection of goods, you've got your money claim online in there, anything like that, then the tenant can request a breathing space. Maximum of 60 days for the breathing space. However, the debt advisor has got 2 review points, 25 days and 35 days. And they can also, if they feel that it's just not working, retract the breathing space at any time. Now, with regards to the mental health crisis, like I said, the tenant must have a mental health assessment. That has to be carried out by a registered mental health practitioner, and they must be receiving treatment. So when we're actually looking at all of this as a whole, I don't think breathing spaces are going to be very common in the industry. And I think if your tenant does get a breathing space, it will give you an opportunity to engage with that tenant where you may not have been able to before because maybe relationship and communication had broken down. So the debt advisor will actually become your point of contact. So if you get a letter to say that your tenant has been given a breathing space, you will get a special unique code to go onto the insolvency register, which is administering this breathing space scheme, and you will be able to see who the debt advisor is for your tenant. You can contact that debt advisor and have open communication with them. You just can't contact your tenant. So it's really important to know that you're then dealing with a professional who is there to assist both you and the tenants, because their outcome is they want the tenant to clear the debt off and move forward so they don't have to see them again. They want the statistics. So they're going to be working with you in regards to setting up payment plans, in regards to anything else. So if you're looking at or you're worried about a tenant with a breathing space, don't be. Just take a moment to understand the practicalities of the scheme. And also, if you do have a debt advisor in place, there's nothing stopping you engaging another company for, say, mediation, for example. That's one of the services that I offer. I'm also able to support tenants with regards to grant applications, so that if they are unable to pay the arrears and they need some money towards clearing that, I can help them apply for around 2,000 grants in the UK that they may be eligible for, that will help them pay off their arrears. So that's basically just a roundup of the breathing space and the debt relief scheme, just trying to make it as simple as possible, just bringing you the facts. So if you've got any questions about this, please post the comments and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If not, you can always email me, advice@gothardrow.com, and I'll put that in the comments as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you guys again soon.